The great crystal hall of the Galactic Forum buzzed with noise. 847 different species sat in their special seats, each one made for their unique bodies. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others needed methane gas or LIV-ED in water tanks. The hall was huge, bigger than any building on Earth. Its walls were made of clear crystal that showed the stars. Outside, Ambassador Hyan-Woo Kim sat in the human section. His dark suit looked simple compared to the bright colors and strange shapes around him. Next to him sat Captain So-Young Park in her military uniform. Dr. Min-Ho Lee, the team's scientist, was reading data on his tablet. Hyan-Woo had been Earth's voice in this place for 15 years. He was good at his job. He could talk to angry aliens and make them calm. He could find ways to make different species agree. Other ambassadors respected him, even if they thought humans were still young and foolish. Today was different. Today, the Vorthan hegemony was trying to pass a new law. The Vorthans looked like giant spiders, but with blue skin and 6 eyes. Their leader, High Speaker Vex Korin, stood at the center platform. His voice was deep and scary. The genetic purity doctrine will save our galaxy, Vex Korin said. His words echoed through the hall. For too long we have allowed species to mix their genes. We have watched as pure bloodlines become dirty. This must stop. Hyan-Woo felt his hands get tight. He knew what this law meant. Humans lived on many worlds now. Some worlds were very hot. Some were very cold. Some had different air. To survive, some humans had changed their genes. They grew thicker skin for cold worlds. They made their lungs stronger for thin air. They changed their eyes to see better in dark places. The Vorthans wanted to call these humans contaminated. They wanted to put them in special camps or worse. The doctrine is simple, Vex Korin continued. Any being that has mixed genes from different species is a threat. Any being that has changed their natural form is impure. They must be contained before they spread their contamination. Other aliens started to talk. The Crystalline Confederacy, who looked like walking diamonds, agreed with the Vorthans. Pure forms are strong forms, said their speaker. Mixed forms are weak and dangerous. The Methane Syndicate also voted yes. They lived in gas clouds and barely understood solid life forms. If the majority agrees, we agree, they said through their translation device. Hyan-Woo watched as species after species voted yes. These aliens had worked with humans for 70 years. Humans had helped them fight diseases. Humans had stopped wars between different species. Humans had shared their technology and food. But now, when humans needed help, these aliens turned away. Captain So-Young leaned close to Hyan-Woo. Sir, we have 12 million human colonists who would be affected. 23 worlds would be invaded by Vorthan forces. Dr. Min-Ho looked up from his tablet. The genetic changes are small. They help humans survive, nothing more. There's no danger to other species. Hyan-Woo stood up. The hall became quiet. Everyone knew the human ambassador was going to speak. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Hyan-Woo began. His voice was calm but firm. Humanity asks for your wisdom today. The people you want to punish are not monsters. They are farmers who changed their skin to work under strong suns. They are miners who made their lungs stronger to breathe thin air. They are explorers who improved their eyes to see in the dark. He looked around the hall. Some aliens looked uncomfortable. Others stared at him with cold eyes. These humans have children. They have families. They have built cities and schools and hospitals. They have never hurt anyone. They live in peace and work hard. Why do you want to destroy them? High Speaker. Vex Korin made a noise like laughing. The human speaks of peace, but his species spreads like a disease. They take any world they can reach. They change themselves to fit anywhere. Soon they will be everywhere. We explore because we love to learn, Hyan-Woo said. We change because we must survive. Is this wrong? It is contamination, Vexcorin replied. It is impurity. It is dangerous. The vote began. Each species announced their choice. The Antarian Collective voted yes. The Kelp Forest Federation voted yes. The Binary Star Union voted yes. One by one, 846 species voted to pass the genetic purity doctrine. Only Earth voted no. The forum's computer voice filled the hall. Motion passed. Vote count, 846 in favor, 1 opposed. The genetic purity doctrine is now galactic law. All affected beings must report to containment centers within 1 solar cycle. Haiyan Wu felt something break inside his chest. For 70 years, humans had believed in this place. They had believed that different species could work together. They had believed that peace was possible. They had been wrong. Captain So Young stood up with him. Her face was red with anger. 12 million people, she whispered. They want to imprison 12 million innocent people. Dr. Minho packed his tablet slowly. His hands were shaking. I worked with half the species in this room. I thought they were our friends. High Speaker Vexcorin looked down at the human section. Human objections are noted, but meaningless. Your species will obey galactic law. Your contaminated colonies will be cleansed. This is final. The hall erupted in cheers from the Vorthan section. Other aliens clapped their hands, tentacles, or claws. They celebrated the decision to destroy human families. Haiyan Wu reached into his jacket and pulled out his ambassador's badge. It was made of gold and showed the earth surrounded by olive branches. He had worn it with pride for 15 years. Now it felt heavy in his hand. He looked around the hall one more time. These beings had shared meals with him. They had asked for his help during crises. They had called him friend. Now they smiled as they condemned his people. Haiyan Wu's voice cut through the celebration. For 70 years, humanity has honored every treaty we signed. We have sent aid to every world that asked. We have bled and died for galactic peace. We have shared our discoveries and our friendship freely. The hall became quiet again. Even the Vorthans stopped celebrating. Today, you have chosen to call our children abominations. You have decided that helping humans survive makes them contaminated. You have voted to imprison millions of innocent people because they dared to adapt to harsh worlds. Haiyan Wu held up his badge so everyone could see it. This badge represents Earth's membership in your forum. It represents our faith in galactic justice. It represents our hope for a peaceful future. He opened his hand. The badge fell to the floor with a small ringing sound that echoed through the silent hall. Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Arbitration Forum, effective immediately. We will no longer participate in your debates. We will no longer send aid when you face disasters. We will no longer mediate your conflicts. Captain So Young and Dr. Minho stood beside him. Other human staff members throughout the hall began to stand as well. You wanted genetic purity. Haiyan Wu continued. You shall have it. The galaxy belongs to you now. Try to keep it from burning down. The human delegation walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed loudly in the silent hall. 846 species watched them leave. Some aliens looked worried now, others still looked angry. A few looked sad. As they reached the door, Haiyan Wu turned back one last time. When your wars start again, when your planets starve, when your diseases spread, remember this day. Remember that you chose purity over compassion. Remember that you chose fear over friendship. The doors closed behind them with a soft sound. For the first time in 70 years, humanity was alone in the galaxy. But for the first time in 70 years, humanity was also free to be itself. In the Crystal Hall, 846 species sat in uncomfortable silence. They had won their vote, but somehow, victory felt like the beginning of something terrible. Outside, The stars waited to see what would happen next. 3 days after the humans left the forum, strange things began to happen across the galaxy. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, human workers suddenly stopped their shifts. They packed their tools and personal items into boxes. The alien supervisors, members of the Rock Eater Collective, watched in confusion as humans loaded everything onto transport ships. "Where are you going?" asked Supervisor Granite Chewer 9. "Your contracts are not finished." The human foreman, a woman named Biora Shin, looked up from loading crates. "Our contracts ended 3 days ago when your people voted to imprison our families. We're going home." "But the mines will stop working without you," Granite Chewer 9 said, worry in his rocky voice. Biora shrugged. "That's not our problem anymore." Similar scenes played out on thousands of worlds. Human doctors left hospitals. Human engineers abandoned construction projects. Human teachers closed their schools. Human traders packed up their stores. All across the galaxy, humans were leaving. The aliens who watched didn't understand what they were seeing. They thought humans were just angry and would come back in a few days. They were wrong. Admiral Tajin Choi stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Harmony. Around him, his crew worked at computer screens showing the positions of human ships throughout the galaxy. Red dots moved across star maps as human vessels gathered in empty space. "Status report," Admiral Choi said to his communications officer. "Sir, we have contact with all human colonies," Lieutenant Eugene Park replied. "Protocol Exodus is running smoothly. All civilian ships are moving to rally points. Military escorts are in position." Admiral Choi nodded. Protocol Exodus was humanity's biggest secret. For 50 years, ever since first contact with aliens, human leaders had worried about this day. They had planned for the possibility that the galaxy might turn against them. The plan was simple but huge. If humanity ever needed to leave quickly, they would. Every human colony had emergency supplies ready. Every human ship had secret orders. Every human family knew the rally points where Earth's fleet would meet them. What the aliens didn't know was how prepared humans really were. Engineer Ji Hai-yoon worked at a hidden facility inside an asteroid belt. The asteroid looked dead from outside, but inside was a massive shipyard. For decades, humans had been building ships in secret. Not just any ships, but arc ships, vessels big enough to carry entire cities. "How many are ready?" asked her assistant, a young man named Dong Hyam Kim. 47 arc ships completed," Ji-hai replied, checking her screens. "Each one can carry 50,000 people plus supplies for 10 years. We also have 300 cargo ships filled with manufacturing equipment." Dong Hyam whistled softly. "The aliens have no idea, do they? They think we're just a young species with simple technology." Ji-hai smiled grimly. "They never bothered to count our real industrial capacity. They're about to learn how wrong they were." Back on the mining world, Biora Shin was helping load the last transport when an unexpected visitor arrived. Clixith 9, a Zephyrian scientist who had worked with humans for 5 years, approached her. Zephyrians looked like tall, thin birds with blue feathers and 4 arms. Clixith 9 was different from most of his species. He was curious about other life forms and enjoyed working with humans. "Bo-ra," Clixith 9 said in his high musical voice. "I want to come with you." Maori stopped loading boxes. "What?" "I heard what happened at the forum. I know about the new law. My own government voted yes." Clixith 9's feathers turned dark blue with shame. "I cannot stay here. I cannot work for people who would hurt innocent families." Bo-ra looked at him carefully. "You know what this means? If you come with us, you can never go home. Your people will call you a traitor." "My people already are traitors to everything I believe in," Clixith 9 replied. "At least humans still have honor." Biora smiled and handed him a box to carry. Welcome to the human family, Clixith 9. Similar scenes happened on other worlds. Aliens who had worked closely with humans began to realize what the genetic purity doctrine really meant. Some decided they couldn't support it. Dr. Minho Lee was coordinating the evacuation of the Kepler Research Station, where humans and aliens worked together studying new life forms. 23 alien scientists asked to leave with the human team. "We cannot stay and pretend this is right," said Dr. Tentacle Weaver Prime, a member of the Coral Mind Collective. "Your species showed us new ways to think about biology. Our species voted to destroy thinking beings. We choose to stand with you." As human ships gathered at rally points beyond the galaxy's edge, alien intelligence agencies made a disturbing discovery. They had been watching human ships for days, counting them as they left their territories. The numbers didn't make sense. General Throat Ripper of the Vorthan hegemony stared at intelligence reports in his war room. "This cannot be correct," he growled through his mandibles. His intelligence chief, Colonel Venom Sack, clicked his claws nervously. "Sir, we have confirmed the numbers 3 times. Human industrial capacity is at least 3 times larger than our estimates." "Impossible. We have been watching them for 70 years. "Apparently not closely enough, sir. They have hidden shipyards in 17 different star systems, automated mining operations in dead solar systems that never appeared on galactic registries, self-sufficient colonies that we never knew existed." General Throat Ripper's 6 eyes widened. "How many ships do they actually have?" "Conservative estimate, 20,000 military vessels. Unknown number of civilian ships." "Sir, they're not just leaving their territories. They're taking entire industrial bases with them." Far beyond the galaxy, President Won Ho Kim stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station. The station didn't exist a week ago. Now it was humanity's new capital, built from prefabricated sections that had been stored in hidden locations for decades. Through the transparent walls, he could see human ships arriving every hour, but not just human ships. Alien vessels flew alongside them, carrying refugees who had chosen humanity over their own species. "How many?" President Kim asked his aide. 200,000 aliens so far," replied Ambassador Su Ben-Han. "Scientists, engineers, teachers, artists. The best and brightest from dozens of species. They're calling themselves Friends of Humanity." President Kim nodded. "And our industrial capacity?" "Fully operational within 6 months. We took everything important: manufacturing equipment, research data, genetic samples, cultural archives. The galaxy kept the buildings. We kept everything that mattered." Captain So Young Park entered the observation deck carrying a communication device. "Sir, we're receiving messages from the galaxy. Multiple alien governments are requesting immediate meetings. They say they want to discuss the situation." President Kim took the device and activated it. The face of High Speaker Vex Korin appeared on the screen, looking less confident than he had at the forum. "Human leaders," Vex Korin began. "The hegemony wishes to clarify our position regarding human colonies. Perhaps we can negotiate new terms." President Kim's expression didn't change. "High Speaker, 3 days ago you voted to imprison millions of human families. You called our people contaminated. You celebrated our decision to leave. What has changed?" Vex Korin's mandibles clicked nervously. "We may have miscalculated the economic impact of human departure. Several critical systems are experiencing problems without human technical support." "That sounds like a problem for the galactic community to solve," President Kim replied calmly. "Perhaps we could arrange for selected human personnel to return under special visas." President Kim cut him off. "High Speaker, humanity has made its decision. We are no longer part of your community. We will build our own future, with species that choose to join us based on mutual respect." He ended the transmission. Ambassador Su Bin Han looked worried. Sir, cutting all contact might be dangerous. We don't know how they'll react. President Kim gazed out at the arriving ships. They had 70 years to learn how to treat us with respect. They chose fear and hatred instead. Now they can learn to live with the consequences. Outside, more ships arrived every hour. Humans and their alien friends were building something new, a community based on cooperation rather than domination, on diversity rather than purity. The galaxy had chosen genetic purity. Humanity had chosen genetic diversity. Time would show which choice was stronger. In the old galaxy, aliens were beginning to realize they had made a terrible mistake. But humanity was no longer listening to their regrets. 6 months after humanity left, the galaxy was falling apart. The Vorthan hegemony had grown bold after their victory at the Forum. High Speaker Vex Korin sent his war fleets to 3 Trilaxian worlds. The Trilaxians were a peaceful species that looked like giant butterflies with colorful wings. They had never hurt anyone. These worlds have contaminated genetics, Vex Korin announced to the galaxy. The Trilaxians have mixed their genes with plant DNA to photosynthesize sunlight. This is impure. We will cleanse them. The Trilaxian queen, Silk Wing Beautiful, sent desperate messages to the Forum. Please help us. We only changed our genes to need less food. We never hurt anyone. We have children on these worlds. But the Forum was not the same without humans. Ambassador Hyan Wu was gone. No one else knew how to make angry species calm down. No one else could find solutions that made everyone happy. The Crystalline Confederacy, who looked like walking diamonds, decided to help the Trilaxians. But they helped in a bad way. They blocked all Vorthan trade routes with their crystal ships. If Vorthans want war, they will get war, declared Crystal Heartsharp, their leader. Within weeks, the galaxy's biggest trade network stopped working. Ships carrying food couldn't reach hungry worlds. Medical supplies couldn't get to sick planets. The galactic economy began to crash. Far beyond the galaxy's edge, President Won Ho Kim watched the chaos from New Geneva Station. The station had grown into a small city in just 6 months. Humans and their alien friends lived and worked together in harmony. Status report. President Kim asked General Daeun Song, his military advisor. The Vorthan Trilaxian War has spread to 12 systems, General Song replied. The Crystal Confederacy is fighting 3 different species now. Trade has dropped by 60% across the galaxy. President Kim looked sad. How many dead? Conservative estimate. 2 billion beings in the last month alone. Dr. Young Sik Bae, humanity's chief scientist, entered the room carrying a datapad. Sir, we've finished analyzing the galactic situation. The breakdown is happening faster than we expected. Why? President Kim asked. Because they never learned to solve problems without us, Dr. Bae explained. For 70 years, humans mediated their disputes. We found compromise solutions. We helped them work together. They became dependent on us without realizing it. President Kim nodded slowly. And now? Now they're like children who never learned to share toys. When they disagree, they fight. When they fight, they destroy things. When they destroy things, others get scared and fight too. Engineer Ji Hai-yoon was building something special in the asteroid belt, a massive communication array that could monitor the entire galaxy. She watched the news feeds from her old home with growing horror. The Methane Syndicate is attacking the Coral Collective, she reported to her team. Apparently, the corals accuse them of genetic contamination because they live in gas clouds instead of on solid planets. Her assistant, Dong Hyan Kim, shook his head. They're using the purity doctrine to justify attacking anyone different from them. It's getting worse, Ji-hai said. The Binary Star Union just declared war on the Kelp Forest Federation. They say living underwater is unnatural. Back in the galaxy, the situation became desperate when plague struck the Methane Syndicate. The disease spread quickly through their gas cloud cities, killing millions every day. In the past, human doctors would have rushed to help. Dr. Minho Lee and his team had stopped dozens of plagues over the years. Human medical technology was the best in the galaxy. Now, the Methane Syndicate sent frantic messages into empty space. Humans, please help us. Our people are dying. We know we made mistakes, but innocent children are suffering. The messages echoed through the dark. No one answered. The Syndicate's leader, Desertedv Prime, tried to contact every human facility in the galaxy. All were empty. The humans had taken their medical equipment and knowledge with them. How do we cure this plague? Desertedv Prime asked his scientists. We don't know, they replied. Humans always handled biological crises. We never learned how to do it ourselves. The plague spread for 3 months before local scientists finally found a cure. By then, 40 billion methane beings had died. It was the worst disaster in their species' history. The forum tried to meet again, but without human diplomats, every session ended in shouting matches. Species that had worked together for thousands of years now hated each other. The Antarian Collective, who looked like tall trees with faces, made the first attempt to contact humanity. Their leader, Barkwise Ancient, sent a message toward the galaxy's edge. Humans of Earth, the message began. We realize we made a terrible mistake. The galaxy is dying without your guidance. Please return. We will change the purity doctrine. We will listen to your concerns. Admiral Tae-Jin Choi received the message aboard his flagship. He played it for his senior officers. Should we respond, sir? Asked Captain Hae-Won Lee. Admiral Choi was quiet for a long moment. They had 70 years to listen to our concerns. They chose to ignore us until they needed us. What do you think we should do? Let them figure it out themselves, Captain Lee replied. Maybe they'll learn something, but the galaxy wasn't learning. It was destroying itself. The worst moment came when the Vorthan hegemony developed planet-killer weapons. General Throat Ripper announced that any world harboring genetic contamination would be cleansed completely. His first target was the Trilaxian homeworld, Butterfly Garden Prime. The planet was beautiful, covered in flowers that the Trilaxians had genetically bonded with. It was home to 12 billion innocent beings. The Vorthan fleet fired their new weapon. The planet's surface burned for 3 days. Every living thing died. The beautiful gardens turned to ash. Queen Silkwing Beautiful escaped on one of the last ships, but most of her people perished. She sent one final message to the galaxy. The humans warned us this would happen. They said fear would destroy us. We should have listened. The Trilaxian genocide triggered panic across the galaxy. Every species began building planet-killer weapons. Terrified they would be next. Commander In-Ho Park led a small human scout ship back into the galaxy to observe the chaos. What he saw made him sick. Entire star systems were empty now. Beautiful worlds that had once bustled with life were radioactive wastelands. Refugee ships drifted between the stars, carrying the survivors of destroyed civilizations. This is worse than our worst predictions, Commander Park reported back to headquarters. They're not just fighting each other. They're committing genocide. Species that existed for millions of years are being wiped out in days. President Kim received the report with a heavy heart. How many species have gone extinct? 47 confirmed extinct. 63 more are down to fewer than 1 million individuals. The galaxy has lost over 100 billion lives in 6 months. Dr. Young-Sik Bae had been studying the psychological breakdown of galactic civilization. His findings were disturbing. They never developed emotional maturity as a group, he explained to the Leadership Council. Humans were always the adults. In the room, we mediated their conflicts, found compromises, helped them work together. Without us, they've regressed to the mental level of scared children. Scared children with planet-killer weapons, General Song added grimly. President Kim stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see human and alien children playing together in the station's parks. They laughed and shared toys without thinking about genetic purity or contamination. The galaxy made its choice, he said quietly. They chose fear over friendship. They chose purity over cooperation. They chose hatred over hope. He turned back to his advisors. Continue monitoring the situation, but we will not intervene. They need to learn that actions have consequences. Ambassador Su Bin Han looked uncomfortable. Sir, billions of innocent beings are dying. And whose fault is that? President Kim asked. Did we vote for the purity doctrine? Did we start these wars? Did we choose genocide over diplomacy? The room was quiet. The galaxy is learning a hard lesson, President Kim continued. They're learning what happens when you destroy the bridges between different peoples. They're learning what happens when you choose fear over understanding. Outside, the galaxy continued to burn. And in the darkness between stars, humanity watched and waited, wondering if their former neighbors would survive their own hatred. The silence from the human territories was deafening. And for the first time in galactic history, that silence was filled with terror. 2 years after humanity left, the galaxy was a graveyard. The war that broke everything started when the Vorthan hegemony did something unforgivable. They released a biological weapon on the Antarian homeworld. The weapon was designed to kill tree-like beings, and the Antarians were basically living trees. General Throatripper watched from his command ship as the Antarian homeworld died. The tall, wise beings who had lived for thousands of years withered and fell like autumn leaves. 12 billion Antarians died in 3 days. Excellent. General Throatripper clicked his mandibles with satisfaction. The tree creatures were too contaminated to live anyway. Their genetic mixing with soil bacteria was disgusting. But the Antarian genocide triggered something terrible. Every species in the galaxy became afraid. If the Vorthans could wipe out an entire planet in 3 days, who would be next? The arms race began immediately. The Crystal Confederacy developed weapons that could shatter planets like glass. The Mothane Syndicate created viruses that could kill any oxygen-breathing species. The Binary Star Union built machines that could make suns explode. Within months, every major species had weapons that could destroy worlds. Commander Inho Park led human reconnaissance ships deeper into the galaxy to document the chaos. What he found was worse than anyone imagined. Sector 7 is completely empty, he reported to Admiral Choi. 15 star systems, not a single living world left. They're all radioactive wasteland or frozen rock. What happened there? Admiral Choi asked. The Kelp Forest Federation and the Coral Collective had a dispute over mining rights. They ended up destroying each other completely. Both species are extinct now. Admiral Choi closed his eyes. The kelp beings and coral beings had been peaceful species. They had never fought anyone before humanity left. Now they were gone forever. Dr. Byung-ho Nam, humanity's expert on alien psychology, was studying the complete breakdown of galactic civilization. His findings terrified everyone. They've lost the ability to think rationally, he explained to President Kim. Fear has taken over their minds completely. Species that traded peacefully for centuries are now convinced their neighbors want to kill them. Why? President Kim asked. Because without human mediation, they never learned to trust each other. We were the glue holding galactic civilization together. We helped them communicate. We found peaceful solutions to their problems. We made them feel safe. President Kim looked at the data on his screen. And now? Now they're like animals backed into corners. They strike first because they're terrified of being struck. Every attack justifies the next attack. The violence feeds on itself. The worst example was the Great Purge of Sector 12, the crystalline. Confederacy decided that all organic life was impure compared to their mineral-based existence. They sterilized 47 worlds in 2 weeks, killing every living thing. They found Crystal Heart Sharp, their leader, broadcast a message to the galaxy. Only mineral life is pure. Organic contamination must be eliminated. We will cleanse the galaxy of biological impurity. The response was swift and terrible. 36 organic species formed an alliance and attacked the crystal worlds with planet-cracking weapons. The Crystalline Confederacy, which had existed for 50,000 years, was extinct within a month. Ambassador Yoonji Co., humanity's new foreign minister, watched the reports with growing horror. She had once worked at the Forum, back when there was still hope for peace. "It's not war anymore," she told her staff. "It's mutual annihilation. They're not trying to win anything. They're just trying to kill each other before they get killed." Her assistant, a young diplomat named Jae-min Kang, looked at casualty reports. Over 300 species extinct in 2 years. Trillions of beings dead. Entire sectors of space are empty now. "And it's getting worse," Ambassador Yoonji added. "The survivors are becoming more desperate, more violent. They're using weapons that damage space itself." She was right. The latest horror was dimensional weapons that tore holes in reality. The Void Syndicate had used one against the Rainbow Coalition, not just killing them but erasing them from existence. Entirely, no one could even remember what the rainbow beings had looked like. President Kim called an emergency meeting of the Human Colonial Union leadership. The time had come to make a terrible decision. "The galaxy is destroying itself," he began. "Our intelligence estimates that if this continues, fewer than 50 species will survive the next year. Civilizations that took millions of years to evolve are being wiped out in days." General Song presented military options. "We could intervene. Our fleet is strong enough to stop the fighting. But should we?" President Kim asked. "They chose this path. They voted to destroy our families. They celebrated when we left. Why should we save them from themselves?" The room was quiet for a long time. Dr. Young-Sik Bae spoke first. "Because we're better than they are. Because saving lives is the right thing to do, even if those lives belong to people who wronged us. But if we save them now, what's to stop them from making the same mistakes again?" asked Ambassador Yoonji. "What if we rebuild their civilization just so they can destroy it again in a few decades?" Commander In-ho Park had spent months watching the galaxy burn. "Sir, I've seen things out there that will give me nightmares forever. Entire worlds covered in bones. Space stations drifting empty with no one left alive to fly them. Children's toys floating in the wreckage of destroyed cities." He paused, his voice breaking slightly. "But I've also seen something else. Some aliens are starting to understand what they lost. They're beginning to realize that their hatred destroyed everything good they ever built." President Kim listened to all viewpoints. Finally, he made his decision. "We will return to the galaxy," he announced. "But not as the junior partners we were before. Not as the species that begged for acceptance and bent over backward to accommodate everyone else's prejudices." He stood up and walked to the window overlooking New Geneva Station's bustling streets. "We will return as the dominant power in a broken universe. We will rebuild galactic civilization, but we will rebuild it according to human values. Equality, cooperation, and respect for all life, not genetic purity and fear of differences." General Song asked the important question, "And if they refuse our leadership?" President Kim's expression was hard as steel. "Then they can continue destroying themselves. We will save those who want to be saved and let the others face the consequences of their choices." Ambassador Eun-ji raised another concern. "Sir, some species might see our return as conquest rather than rescue." "Let them," President Kim replied. We tried diplomacy for 70 years. We tried cooperation and compromise. We tried being the junior partner in the galactic community. None of it worked. He turned back to his advisors. This time we do things our way. Species that want to join our new galactic order will be welcome as equals. Species that want to continue fighting will be stopped by force. And species that refuse both options can be isolated until they grow up. The decision was made. Humanity would return to the galaxy, but not as the accommodating diplomats they had once been. They would return as the dominant power in a universe that had learned too late the value of what it had thrown away. Outside, the preparation began. Human shipyards worked around the clock building the largest fleet in galactic history. Not just military ships, but medical vessels, construction ships, and massive arc ships filled with supplies to rebuild devastated worlds. The galaxy had chosen genetic purity and gotten genocide instead. Now humanity would show them what real strength looked like, not the power to destroy, but the power to build something better from the ashes of their mistakes. The age of human dominance was about to begin. 5 years after humanity left, they came back. But they didn't return as the polite, accommodating species that had once begged for acceptance at the Forum. They returned as conquerors of a broken universe. Fleet. Admiral J. Sung-yoon stood on the bridge of the flagship Terra's Pride, watching his massive fleet enter galactic space. Behind him stretched the largest armada anyone had ever seen. 3,000 ships of the human colonial Union Navy, accompanied by vessels from 47 alien species who had chosen humanity over their birth civilizations. Status report. Admiral Yoon commanded. "All ships in formation, sir," replied Captain Sumin Park. "We're receiving distress signals from 200 different sources. The spiral arm is in complete chaos." Admiral Yoon nodded grimly. Intelligence reports had prepared him for this, but seeing the destruction with his own eyes was still shocking. Dead worlds drifted through space like tombstones. Entire star systems showed no signs of life. The galaxy had become a graveyard. "Begin." "Phase 1, he ordered. "Establish quarantine zones around active combat areas. Any ship that fires at our forces will be disabled immediately." The first test came quickly. A Vorthan battle fleet, fleeing from Crystal Confederacy ships, suddenly found themselves facing human vessels. General Throat Ripper himself was commanding the Vorthan ships. "Human ships," came his transmission. "Withdraw immediately. This is not your conflict." Admiral Yoon's response was broadcast on all frequencies, so every species could hear. "General Throat Ripper, you are in violation of galactic peace. Surrender your weapons and prepare to be escorted to a refugee processing center." Throat Rippers. Mandibles clicked with rage. "You dare give orders to the Vorthan hegemony? Your species left like cowards. You have no authority here." "I have the authority of superior firepower," Admiral Yoon replied calmly. "You have 10 seconds to comply." Throat Ripper opened fire. The Vorthan ships were advanced, but human technology had leaped forward during their exile. The human fleet didn't just defeat the Vorthans. They disabled every ship without killing a single being. Precise weapons. Fire destroyed engines and weapons while leaving life support intact. Within minutes, the entire Vorthan battle fleet was helpless, drifting in space. "General Throat Ripper," Admiral Yoon's voice was ice cold. "Your war crimes against multiple species are well documented. You will be tried for genocide. Your crews will be relocated to safe refugee centers, where they can build new lives without harming others." The message was clear to every species watching. Humanity had returned, and they were now the strongest power in the galaxy. Director Hyo Jung Kim coordinated the massive relief effort from New Geneva Station, which had been moved to the edge of galactic space. Her job was to rebuild entire civilizations from scratch. "Current status," she asked her team. "We've established safe zones around 300 systems," reported her assistant. Manager Wu Jin Lee. Medical ships are treating plague victims on 47 worlds. Construction fleets are rebuilding infrastructure on 12 devastated planets. Resistance? Minimal. Most survivors are too grateful for help to complain about human leadership. The few species still fighting each other stop immediately when our peacekeeping fleets arrive. Director Kim looked at holographic displays showing the galaxy's slow recovery. What about the political situation? 63 species have formally requested membership in the new Galactic Compact. 80 more are considering it. Only 12 species are still refusing all contact. The new Galactic Compact was humanity's replacement for the old Forum, but this time, the rules were different. The Compact was based on 3 simple principles. Genetic diversity makes species stronger, not weaker. No species is superior to any other. And all disputes must be resolved through negotiation, not violence. Species could join the Compact and enjoy full protection and trade benefits. Or they could remain independent and be left alone. But they couldn't have both independence and the right to attack their neighbors. The most dramatic moment came when the survivors of the Vorthan hegemony formally surrendered. High Speaker Vex Korin, who had started the whole crisis 5 years earlier, was brought before Ambassador Hyan Woo Kim, the same human diplomat who had walked out of the Forum. Vex Korin looked terrible. His blue carapace was scarred from battle. 2 of his 6 eyes had been damaged. His once proud mandibles clicked nervously. "Human ambassador," Vex Korin began, his voice barely a whisper. The hegemony formally requests membership in your compact." Ambassador Hyan Woo studied. The alien who had called human children contaminated abominations. The man who had celebrated humanity's departure from the galaxy. "High Speaker," Hyan Woo said quietly, 5 years ago, you declared our people impure. You voted to imprison millions of innocent families. You told us we were contaminated and dangerous. Vex Korin's remaining eyes looked down at the floor. "We were wrong. Terribly, catastrophically wrong. Your species has 3 worlds left out of 47. Your population has dropped from 2 trillion to 50 million. You started a galactic war that killed hundreds of billions of innocent beings." Hyan Woo's voice remained calm, but everyone could hear the steel beneath it. "Yes," Vex Korin whispered. "All true. And now you want our help. We are dying. Our young ones have no future. We have nothing left but our mistakes and our shame." The chamber was silent. Every species representative watched to see how humanity would respond to their former tormentor. Ambassador Hyan Woo stood up slowly. "High Speaker, you declared war on our children. You celebrated our departure. You chose genetic purity over compassion and fear over friendship." Vex Korin prepared for rejection and probably execution. "Yes," Hyan Woo continued, "we will help you, because that is what it means to be human. We don't abandon people who need help, even people who wronged us. But you will accept our aid as equals asking equals for help, not as masters demanding service from inferiors." Vex Korin's mandibles clicked with amazement. You would save us? After everything we did? "We will save you because of what we are, not in spite of what you did," Hyan Woo replied. "But understand this clearly, you will live under human law now. You will treat all species as equals. You will never again speak of genetic purity or contamination. And you will spend the rest of your existence making amends for the genocide you committed." "Agreed," Vex Korin said immediately. "Completely agreed." 6 months later, representatives from 200 surviving species gathered for the dedication of new Forum Station. But this wasn't built on neutral ground like the old Forum. This one orbited Earth itself, making it clear who was in charge of galactic affairs now. President Kim gave the opening address to delegates who had once considered humans too young and primitive to have opinions worth hearing. 5 years ago, you told us our children were abominations," he began. You voted to destroy families whose only crime was adapting to survive on harsh worlds. You celebrated when we left your forum. The alien delegates sat in uncomfortable silence. Today, you come to our world, asking for our protection, our technology, our help in rebuilding what your hatred destroyed. You come not as our equals in a grand galactic community, but as survivors begging for mercy from the species you tried to eliminate. Some delegates looked ashamed. Others appeared angry but knew they had no choice. But we will help you, President. Kim continued, because unlike you, we never forgot what it means to value life over purity, cooperation over domination, hope over fear. He gestured to the massive windows showing Earth's blue oceans and green continents. The galaxy belongs to those who can build, not just destroy. For 70 years, we helped you build a peaceful civilization. You tore it down in 5 years of hatred and fear. Now we will build again, but this time we build it our way. Ambassador Haiyan Wu took the podium for the closing remarks. This was the same man who had walked out of the old forum 5 years earlier, but now he stood as the most powerful diplomat in the galaxy. You watched in terror as we abandoned your forum, he said, looking out at the alien faces. Now you watch in hope as we build our own. The difference is not in what we built, but in who we chose to become. He paused, letting his words sink in. You had a choice between fear and friendship. You chose fear. You had a choice between genetic purity and genetic diversity. You chose purity. You had a choice between cooperation and domination. You chose domination. The chamber was absolutely silent. Humanity chose differently. We chose friendship over fear, diversity over purity, cooperation over domination. That is why your civilizations burned while ours flourished. That is why you came begging to us instead of us begging to you. He looked directly at the section where High Speaker Vex Corrine sat with the other Vorthan survivors. The galaxy gave you 3,000 years of peace maintained through human diplomacy. You destroyed it in 5 years without us. Let that be a lesson to anyone who thinks genetic purity is more important than genetic diversity, or that fear is stronger than hope. As the ceremony ended, delegates filed out to begin the long process of rebuilding galactic civilization under human leadership. But this time, it would be built on human values, that diversity makes species stronger, that cooperation beats domination, and that building something together is always better than tearing it apart. Outside the